probably the easiest way to get your proportions correct. And this is called sight size, which means that you're basically just drawing it the same as your subject. So see, you can just kind of mark and go along, and as long as you're straight across here, you can mark where certain points are. See? I will show you how we progress to this drawing. The first drawing I did was a loose sketch, and in my sketchbook, just to try to map out if I wanted to paint this or not. So it's very loose and sketchy, but it gave me the basic overall design and showed me some of the problems that I was going to have. The next thing I did was I attempted to paint him on this little this is a crescent watercolor board, and I discovered that you cannot on these, this is a crescent cold press watercolor board, extra heavy duty. It's really nice to work on unless you are having to correct mistakes. And if you try to lift on this board, you can see that it actually took the paper up. So I suggest those just for light sketches and very little watercolor work, sadly, because I really thought I would go to these, but bottom line is nothing works as well as watercolor paper or watercolor ground for me. So I'm still experimenting. I'm always experimenting. So the third time's the charm. This one I redrew, and the difference between this drawing and this drawing is that I actually measured every distance. So I measured, and I did the last video on comparative measuring. And so you can either take a pencil, okay, and this is called sight size when they're roughly the same, well, they're pretty much the same size. So you can just measure from here to here and see where you're off. And I went through and measured every landmark on here, and I corrected the problem by doing that with the bill, because I had a problem with the bill in this one. And I also got the angle correct by shooting a line straight down the center line of his face, because he's not looking straight at you, he's slightly turned. So I measured every distance from every major point, and you can do it with just a pencil or a paintbrush, or you can use one of these little wonderful devices, and they will actually show you precise measurements, not like that, but precise measurements. So you can check every distance. So you can check the distance this way, or you can check it with a pencil or a pen. But as long as you're comparatively measuring, I can see right here, just from looking at that his neck is a little thick. So always correcting. So we'll bring his neck in just the tiniest bit there. See, that already looks better. So what is the saying? Measure twice, cut once. And it's kind of that same thing with your drawing. Take your time to get your drawings correct, because it will save you many headaches in your painting, and make the painting itself much more enjoyable. So once I have done that and I've gotten all my measurements where I'm pretty happy, then I take my kneaded eraser and I just lightly go over the entire sketch so that I won't be smearing graphite when I do my watercolor washes. And it gets rid of all the harsh lines also. So we'll do that, and we are ready to paint. So the first thing we're going to do is look at our colors, and I pretty much mapped out my colors on these two little sketches. This is leaf green, this is moon glow, believe it or not, which is just a purpley gray color. This is azo green, and then I mixed it with some blues, and then I've left the paper white. And this is Mont Amiata, which is basically a burnt raw sienna from Daniel Smith. So it's pretty much our colors, but we'll test them before we go. So this is the Moon Glow. This is the Azo Green for his beak, at least the beginnings of his beak. So the first thing we're going to do is do a loose underpainting on him, painting the areas that, actually I'm going to paint everything because I don't like the white of the paper showing through. I like a tiny tint on my paper because it just makes it look softer and more real for some reason. I don't know why. Unless I'm painting something that needs a stark white background. And it's fixing to storm, so if you hear thunder, that's what's going on there. Now we have to be really careful dropping in any details in here because now that the paper's wet, it's going to run all over the place. So I'm just going to take a nice loose little mop brush. This is a Raphael Zero. Get a paper towel in my hand. Actually, let's get a Viva in case we need to blot up anything. And I'm going to just do a light wash of the Moon Glow in all the places that are going to be dark and let them just drift into the white spaces. If you have everything wet, you're not going to get hard edges, which is kind of what you want when you're painting wildlife, animals, nature. Nature doesn't often have hard edges. So we'll just drop that in here and there. I did go back and soften all my outside lines so I didn't have hard lines around the edges of my duck. Drop a little dark in there and in his nostrils just to show us where the darks are going to be, so when we start building we won't forget. Just let that bleed all the way down in there, but I need that to be a clean edge. I had problems with his bottom lip in the last video. I don't know why his bottom lip gave me so much trouble, but it did. All right, and all in here, this is random, so we'll make that random. And we'll make this random, not having too firm of a outline there, because these are feathers and feathers are soft. And when you're painting birds of all kinds, you always need to pay attention to the direction that the feathers are going. So if they're coming this way, you kind of want to make them look like they're going up or down, or whatever they're doing. And if you get outside the line, don't worry about it because you've still got your wash is going to go in for the background. This is just to give us some areas of darks. You can see it's darker on the edges of his little face. He's so cute. I love ducks. We have geese also on the lake. They're a lot of fun. I'm just going to kind of loosely put this in. Just mimicking the direction of the feathers. And if it gets too severe, just blot it back, which I think is a good idea anyway when you're first starting out on these. And I like to build my watercolors gradually. Some people just go right in and paint it a la prima, which is awesome if you can do that. Sometimes I do it, but I'm much more comfortable building it gradually and slowly. So we're going to have to mimic feathers, the texture of feathers here. Yeah, he's already looking a lot better. Good. We're going to have to drop a little gouache right in here to catch that highlight right there. So I'm not too worried about that. Right, let's go down here. Just suggest some feathers. Once this is dry, when you go back over it with your washes, if you go over it with a light wash, it shouldn't pick it up. Another thing that's important is to stand back and to look at your painting from a distance. Ooh, it's thundering. So we may finish this video later. All right, I'm going to go ahead and drop in that light azo green. It's really a beautiful color. I love it, and I rarely use it, and I'm not sure why that is, honestly. We need to add a little blue to it, though, so I'll add a little ultramarine, because that's a little too green and acidy looking. But remember, this is just our first wash, so it's not that critical. We just want to get the shape of everything, basically. So we'll go ahead and do the light wash in here all over his beak totally, and then we'll adjust the colors as we go. See, it's okay if that runs in there, because that's the dark side right there. That's a little bit different. I wanted to save that little highlight right there. Azo green is a staining color. Okay, so we are going to do this and leave it here until this thunderstorm passes, and then I will be back. Just hit that bottom lip a little bit with that. Okay, good start, and we will be back shortly.